Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. As you'll note from watching the previous 2 or 3 or maybe 4 videos, I've been just looking at Amiga stuff recently, so I've got yet another Amiga 500 here. And this is a 500, not a 500 Plus. First inspections, it's got a key missing. I think this is an old one, this, because it's the one with the plus. So I could have a problem finding a spare key for that, actually. It's not got the little square plunger that the Mitsumi keyboards had, which most of them typically seem to be. But yeah, nevertheless, I'll try and do something to replace that. I might just be able to buy one of the Mitsumi ones and, I don't know, modify it. It might even just squeeze into that little hole there. I'm thinking it's a plus, maybe it's not. Let's just try and take one of these off. And I should really be doing this with a keycap removal tool. Ah, it is. It's not a plus, it's a flat, square, rectangle thing like that. So yeah, there's no springs on these. It's just, I think the spring is in the inside. It might be a little rubber plunger or something on the inside, I'm not sure. But yeah, well, I'm happy about that. I can order an F2 key for it in a minute. But there are no screws. You can see the lid just comes straight off here. And look at this crazy thing around the back. This is absolutely insane. Someone's stuck these, but look how they're attached. I hope to God they're not soldered in. Can you see that? It's mains wire. Someone's used mains wire. Let's try and pull it out. Does it want to come out? Do you know, that feels well and truly stuck in there. Someone's soldered those in, haven't they? Oh joy. So without further ado, we will unclip the lid. There are no screws for the lid, so I'll need to replace those. There is no button there for the drive, so you can order 3D printed ones. I'll probably do that. Corrosion, lots of corrosion on the shielding as normal. Shielding's kind of lifted up here, so someone's obviously been inside this to solder these blooming things on at some point. Just disconnect the keyboard. So yeah, hopefully the keyboard works okay. One of the big fears on these is whether you've got a faulty keyboard controller chip there, but yeah, hopefully that'll be alright, so let's put that out of the way. I did just remove the first screw off the camera, but I've got to go around all the rest, so I haven't actually been inside this. You can see something's happened here as well, and look how these are shorting. This was shorting onto the expansion slot here, and over here, you've got this thing like that. There's a screw missing over there, obviously. So yeah, very strange. Anyway, we'll just get the remaining screws out. I'm going to need I think it's Torx, yeah, we need a Torx screwdriver to get these out. If you're working on lots of these retro systems, you want to get yourself one of these kits, of adjustable bits. You get a screwdriver here that's got, a cavity there to fit the bit in. And in fact, those will fit into most of those types of screwdrivers anyway, so you can just get the bits as a set if you've got a really good screwdriver already. But you can see these are the bits that I use, mostly the Torx ones and stuff. But you can see you also get these ones for certain power supplies. Have got like a little rectangular thing, on the head there, and you can grip it and turn with those. But you've also got this, these are security Torx. Can you see? They've also got the hole in the centre. That's just a straight Torx screw. It's not got the pin in the middle. So if it's got a pin, it's classed as security Torx, and that's where these bits are super useful. But a security Torx set will work with either, because obviously it doesn't matter that you've got the hole in the end there. And then I guess the other useful bits that you can get as well, we've got these as additional ones here. These are game bits, so yeah, they kind of look similar to Torx, but they're not. I think the sizing is slightly different, so it's worth getting yourself a couple of those. I don't know if you can see the sizes on those. That just says number 8, so I don't know what that is, and that says 3.8. But those are useful for getting inside Game Boy carts and things like that, Game Gears. So let's give it a go. Yep, it's coming out. Just work my way around these. I will do what I always do, which is to replace any missing screws and things like that. It would be a shame not to at least leave this in some sort of respectable state. So I'll pull the shielding off. The shielding needs reforming because it's a bit bent. Yeah, some corrosion there, look at that. Now I think these are chromed, they might be chromated, the tops of these, that shiny silvery look. So I'd be reluctant to, plate one of those pieces of shielding there, because you may get some chromium coming off. But you can see straight away this is an early board, definitely 16 chips. So yeah, I was correct in the previous video. I doubted myself for a minute there when I put an annotation up in one of the first parts there. I was talking about the RAM because, you know, the newer revisions of the 500 and 500 plus boards, they've only got 4 chips, or, you know, position for 8 in total to give you a meg, whereas this old version here, I don't know what rev it is, we'll look at that in a sec. I think it's rev 5. This has got 16 of these DRAM chips here. The other clue that gives it away, it's a super early version, is the Agnes here. You can't quite see that's upside down, but it says 8371. This is the initial half a meg version that shipped on the 500s. And just looking at the back here, we can see the wonderful craft work done by a previous owner. He's done such a good job of soldering those mains cables onto the inside the sockets there. It all looks beautiful, doesn't it? I'm really impressed with how tidy and clean that work is. What a mess. Hopefully it's not damaged the connectors too much. I don't think it will have done, because it's soldered onto the very edges here, so the centre point and stuff should make a good fitting. But yeah, what a crazy idea. What was wrong with just extending these out? If you wanted these to be easily accessible with a, you know, like that, stick some male connectors on these wires here and plug them in. You've got the same thing, and you're not having to mangle your sockets here. So we'll get the drive out. I am pleasantly surprised with this 500 actually, because I had views or visions that this was going to turn up and someone would have removed half the chips or all the chips, you know, because that's often the case with eBay. You get something that says, you know, untested, you know, and you end up with just a bare motherboard with no parts on it. And it looked actually from the advert like there was no drive in it, so I'm pleasantly surprised to see that is actually a floppy drive. It was just the fact that the button was missing. So yeah, we got a couple of screws missing from the underside here that, you know, hold the drive in place, but as I say, I can replace those. So I think we'll just disconnect the IDC connector here, just carefully try and pull it up without bending the pins and stuff. There we go. And the same with the power. You know, you got your, there's 2 grounds in the middle. I think one side of that is 5 volts and the other one's 12. I forget what the colour designation is, but I'm guessing brown might be 12, red might be +5. But don't take my word for that. Measure there before you assume anything. So yeah, even the drive feels a bit loose in there actually. That's a bit strange. Yeah, someone's even been in the drive here. Look, screw missing. Maybe they tried to clean the drive up, but yeah, I bet we can probably get that drive working again if it's not working. And you might just be able to see down here rev 5 B52 Rock Lobster. It says just under that label there, A500P 8788. So I'm guessing this might have been manufactured in 1988. I don't know. I was questioning that then, thinking 88, that seems a bit early, but actually that's correct. If you look at this here, 29th week of 88, and the same over here, 29th week of 88, 31st of 88, 28, 88. So yeah, this is quite an early A500. Well, it's Rev 5. I don't know what other revisions were prior to this. I'm assuming there was a Rev 1, a Rev 2, a Rev 3 and a Rev 4. So I think I'm going to start by removing these actually. I don't like this, it's messy. And then I'm going to go over to the TV, plug it in and give it a try. I was going to say there's no corrosion anywhere, but there is on the back of here. So it's a bit like that previous board we looked at where, you know, for one in the first video I think, where it's had an expansion card plugged in. The battery on there is leaked and it's affected here, but this isn't the model that contains a battery here. That's only in the 500 plus. We've got some corrosion here, can you see that? Ugh, it's like a dead moth or something there. So yeah, we could have a bad connection on something around there. But I think the rest of the board looks okay from the top side. Piece of rat poo. So not a great angle, but all I'm going to do is heat these up, and it's going to take a while with this iron. I will get the desolder station onto this and clean up all this solder, you know, remove the excess solder. But initially, in fact I might need to switch the desolder station on because I don't think this iron's going to do it. It's not. Can you see that? It's just nothing. It's just not moving at all. The solder is, it's like the iron's off, and the iron is on. So let's try that again with a bit more heat here. I might need to just get my pliers actually, because I'm going to need to use something to pull these off here. But you can see again, it's not moving. And it doesn't surprise me because it's a giant piece of metal. Someone must have used a seriously high-powered iron. There we go. It's coming off now. Yeah, that one's out of the way. Let's just try and shift it so it doesn't join again. As I say, we'll clean these up later. I just want to just get the wires off and out. This one's going to be the worst because it's the ground. Oh, I'm tempted to just cut it off at this point actually, but if we just give it a bit of patience here, maybe it'll melt and we can just pull it off. I can remove the excess solder later. In fact, I think I'm going to struggle to remove the blooming solder later actually. Let's crank it up to 480. So we've got some more heat there now. It's about 450 at the moment, 460 it's going up. So let's just see if with that higher temperature, if it'll melt. Come on, melt. Starting to. Come on, give it up. Yeah, there we go. So I can, as I say, use the desolder station later. I don't want to do it at the moment because, long story, I need to be quiet in here. So you can see that wire is free, but what I'm going to do is not pull it like that because it's got large blobs of solder. I'm going to snip these wires from this side so that as I pull it through, it's not going to catch on the inside of the thing here and maybe damage the connector. So I can just pull it straight out like that. Get rid of that bit of wire down there if I can find the blooming thing. Anyway, you've seen me do the first one, I'll do the same with the second one, but as I say, I'll suck off these extra bits of solder with the desolder station later. So I tested it without the keyboard initially. It's doing just the same thing, I'll show you in a minute. It's like a white screen and it just flashes kind of every second or two as if it's like resetting. I wanted to test the connectivity on the keyboard here. The easy way to do that is test, you see from one of the bottom corners of these 7.4 chips here, that's the ground, to the cable here, and green is ground. So if you remember green ground, you know, the GR bit. And then over here, the third from the right hand side, there is where the ground goes. So that's definitely connected up, and if I switch it on, you will see after a second it goes red. It's a bit dim that light, but you see it just flickers, watch, it goes off and on. And if I point with the screen, you'll see we've just got a blank screen. Now I'm using the monochrome video output, so there could be colour there. I'll connect up a colour cable in a minute, but you can see that little flicker. So as you can see, I've got the board connected up here. I did just try to remove and reseat the Agnes and failed miserably with the PLCC extractor. I'll show you that in a minute, but yeah, if you're not careful you can scratch the top, and I did scratch the top of the chip there. But anyway, nevertheless, I'm going to continue working my way around these, reseating these, but I'll just show you what it's doing. So if I switch it on, just watch, like grey, but it's just not getting any further than that. Once or twice it's gone kind of white, as if it's passed the memory test, but then not get any further. And you can see that little flicker, that little line. It's like a line every now and again, just sort of flickers in. So, I'm thinking something to do with Gary or the Agnes maybe. Strange how a few minutes ago I was getting a white screen and now I'm not. Yeah, it's like it's not even passing the memory test now. Yeah, that's as if it's stuck on a memory test. That's what it looks like. It's just weird though, because you know, if there was a RAM fault, it would give up and you would get a green flashing screen there. And I am connected via you know, RGB here, so it's not like we're lacking colour. Very interesting. Anyway, I'll continue working my way around reseating things. So I don't need to reseat the Agnes again. This is much like as I showed in a previous video. Can you see two holes here? So you can get, I was using this because it's got a nice flat point on it. Yeah, just push, chip comes out, you know, inspect the pins, push it back in. But it's making a good fit there, no worries at all. The other thing I did off camera is I tried a different ROM, no problems, you know, it's just the same with a different ROM, so it's not the ROM. I haven't reseated the CPU. We'll start with these two here. Let's just take Gary out and just carefully here. Sometimes it can be quite hard. Sometimes what I will do is turn the screwdriver like that because you've got a soft edge there, and just leave it that way ever so slightly. You don't want to, you know, damage the PCB. Now some people will pipe up at this point and say you should use a dip extractor, but you know what? These chips are so tight in these sockets, seriously. I don't even think I need to reseat these. They're really well crimped in, you can hear that. You know, it's stuck in there, well and truly, but yeah, inspect the pins and just put it back in. Well, inspect the socket edge there, looks okay, I don't see any corrosion. Put it back in and retry. And the interesting thing is, can I show you that? It went white, it went the two stages of grey, then white. But I don't think that's going to boot. I don't think that's going to boot. It's waiting for something somewhere, I think. I don't know what. Very strange. I've never seen this kind of behaviour. It's going to be something unexpected, I think, with this. Could be like a broken trace or something somewhere, maybe. And so we'll do Denise next, actually. Now you can see I removed the shielding from this. I took the little nuts off. I'll show you in a minute. Well, I'm going to show you that as I reassemble it. But I took the little hex nuts off the back to separate from the shielding, just to make it easy to remove some of these. Certainly the Denise, because when you've got the shielding here, it can be super hard trying to get that out. You are better off using a flat blade to do this as well, by the way. Otherwise you do risk some damage here. It's really sticking in that again. So I'll just inspect the pins. No corrosion, looks okay. And again, socket looks okay. So we'll just fit it back in. Yep, that's it. Switch it on. Just the same again. So yeah, not making any progress yet. So I'll switch it off. So as unlikely as it is, let's reseat Paula. See, there is some corrosion here, can you see that? That makes me suspicious that it's going to be something to do with connections around Paula, I think. So let's just get Paula out of her socket. There we go, tight again. So pins, yeah, so pins looking okay there. What? Am I seeing things? There, I'm looking through the viewfinder here. Yeah, look, there's a pin missing. Wow, there's 4 pins missing. Where the hell are the pins then? I am totally puzzled by that. I am totally puzzled by that. I've inspected here super close, there's no pins. How has it got like that? I wonder if someone's took this out from a board where they broke the pins off and put it in here or something, but this is a bit suspicious. There's this corrosion here as well, and these do look kind of, can you see that, kind of like weathered a little bit, you know, like some corrosion's ultimately got on them and that's why they've snapped off there. Let me just try a good working Paula. I'm not going to give up on this one. I think what we can do is I'll get a socket and I'll just solder some wire links from these pins here into the socket, just where the ones are broken. I won't make the mistake of soldering every single pin into the socket like I've done previously when I fixed a SID, but I think there might be hope for this. That might work. Let's just try Paula. Hang on a sec. 8364. Right, so I found another 8364 here out of my spares. Pins look good on that. That one's a little bit bent there. Let's just try and move that across a little bit. Yeah, that's not too bad. So yeah, pin 1 marking is over here. Let's just carefully get that one in and give it a try. So switch the power on. So it's doing the same thing with the white screen there. Maybe it's not that. Oh yeah, it's back. Brilliant. Wow. I was just about to switch it off then and give up. So, seriously, is this the kind of repairs I'm getting now where people are breaking pins off things and shoving them into boards? I don't know. Looks like it, doesn't it? The mysterious thing is the pins are nowhere to be seen. They're not in the socket. It can't have ever been working like that. The pins don't just dissolve. Yeah, but that's working. It's 1.3 as well, which is great. Shortest repair in the world, this one, I think. So it's going to be just a clean-up. I'll deal with some of the corrosion there. We'll deal with that chip now. I mean, the good thing is it gives me an opportunity to test 1 or 2 of my chips as well. I've got a lot of spares here, but you can see that's coming up every single time now. I'm sure that's it. I'm sure that, well, it's bound to be. You know, we've seen the pins missing off here for 4 of them in total. So, yeah, but we'll see if we can get that chip working. I'll do that next. As I say, we'll clean this up. The floppy drive obviously is in a state of disrepair. It's got some screws missing. We've got screws missing from the case. The case is in a state. The keyboard needs cleaning up. We've got a key missing. There's the corrosion you saw just near Paul that I thought was going to be the issue, but turns out isn't. It might have been a contributing factor to the pins coming off, but still, pins don't just fall off like that. Someone's broken those off at some point by mishandling it. I'm tempted to think someone's took the Paula out of another machine and they've broke the pins off and they thought, oh god, yeah, I know, I'm going to get rid of that other board, let's just shove that Paula in there. I think that's what's happened. but I think it might work. So I might recap this as well. I've got some Agnes 8371s I can test on here as well. I think I've got 2 of those spare, so it'd be useful to test those and just generally clean the thing up and maybe recap it. So just looking at that chip, I was thinking it might be 40 pin. It's not. I'd forgotten there are some 48 pin chips on these boards. I'm not sure whether I have any sockets that size. I thought I ordered some recently. I might just dive into my spares to see if I've got one that size. These are just all 40 pin, I think, aren't they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I've got 10 40 pin sockets there. I thought I had some 44s. So my 48 pin sockets haven't arrived, and I've just realised it's one of these sellers that goes, yeah, UK, and then you check and actually no, it's not, it's China. So I think what I'm going to do is, if you remember in part 1 I smashed up a socket. I'm not going to need all these pins, so I'm just going to take 4 of the pins from this, and I'm going to have a go at soldering them on to the bits that are there actually. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how this is going to work. It's going to be super fiddly to try and do this. But you know, you can see the thickness. Well, you might not be able to, it's blurring a bit there, but the thickness and size of the pin is pretty much exactly what we need to replace the existing ones. But what I'm thinking is, because it's extended down a little bit, can you see it's got the thing on the top here? In theory, I might just be able to solder that. If I cut the little flap off here, you know, the bit that it's I can't explain it very well here. Can you see the bit at the top? Let me just try and get it flat on like that. This bit here, if I cut that off, it'll be a nice little flat spade on the end, which I can literally just sit almost on the end there and solder it on, I think. So yeah, I don't like doing this sort of thing really. I would prefer if I was using a socket for this, but it might be a waste of a socket. So if we just trim that like that there, you can see the end of the leg has just come off, and we're just left with that. Does that make sense? So in theory, I think now, with some very fine solder work, I can probably just sit it like, I'll cut it back a bit, it doesn't need to be that long. Let's just trim half that off there. The leg we want, we want to keep the leg that length, but just that bit there, we don't need a lot of it. We just need a bit like that. Can you see that? Just a little bit on the end. And then what I'm thinking is, we can just overhang it there. Can you see that? Just a little bit, and solder it on. I might need to trim the end of the pin off because it might be a bit too long then, but I think we can replace the legs. The nice thing is, because you know, it's just the tips that are broken off, we do have the top part there, you know, the stub. So yeah, fitting that on there like that should be okay. I think it should work. Well, some serious swearing going on here. I'm having one of those what the f moments actually. I'm trying to solder onto this, and I've added flux, I've even scratched it. The solder's not buying. It's not buying. It's like I'm trying to solder to a piece of concrete or something. I've got no idea what's going on here. I'm using a bit of white vinegar here actually, just to clean these pins up. You can see I'm just using the pliers, just try and help assist, you know, kind of hold it in position while I work on this. But something has happened to the metal there. It's got some corrosion or something on the surface, which means you can't even solder onto it. It's crazy. Sometimes with certain types of metal, you have to scratch with a sharp implement of some kind, like type like this. But you shouldn't have to do it on these. These should just, the solder should just bond there. You know, it should flow and stick, and there shouldn't be an issue. I'll just try that again on camera so you can see. Let's just see if it'll join now. I've even added a bit of chip quick flux there. Look, it's just not flowing. The solder does not want to join that pin. What the hell? You see what I can see there? It's just not flowing at all. I've never seen that. Something weird has gone on with the pins on this. How can it be conductive if solder can't even go to it? Yeah, there's a bit there sticking there now. Oh no, it stopped. Well, I don't know, this is beyond belief. Yeah, you're not going to be able to see what I'm doing here. I'm having to do this crazy bloody angle. Sorry for the language. I've heated the inside of the pin and the inside of the stub. You can just about, see what I'm trying to do there. Join it back up, and I'm using the croc clip here to hold the chip. I don't like doing that, but I've got no choice. Yeah, you can see that's kind of on. It needs a bit of a little bend to straighten it up a bit, and it might need a little bit of the end trimming off. Whether or not it's going to hold with any force, I don't know. Oh yeah, it feels pretty sturdy, to be honest. It feels just like the original pin did. You can see I did the one over here. Can you see that? Yeah, that second pin was the one that was broken off, and now the end pin. But you can see it's coming further down. It just needs the tip trimming off the end there. But it's, you know, it's soldered on the inside of the flap, if that makes sense. So yeah, profile-wise, it looks okay. It just needs, let's say, a little bit of a straighten here, and I've got to hope that I don't break the whole thing off the top there. Yeah, I think that's okay. Anyway, I'll do the others and then just trim the ends down. So I just need to clean it up. It doesn't look great. We've got lots of flux, can you see? So yeah, I just need to gently clean with a toothbrush here. Try and get the flux off where I've been doing the soldering. Got to be super, super, super careful, or I could undo the work I've just spent 10 minutes trying to do. Yeah, but hopefully you can see, you know, we've got the 3 pins missing that were missing there back on, and the one over here. You'd never know from that side. Well, apart from the fact it looks a little bit odd. Anyway, I think that's it. So yeah, I'll just dry that off with a cotton bud, I think, and we'll go and test it and see if that works. So we'll remove my good Paula. This came out a lot easier than that last one did, actually. Put that to the side, and yeah, I'll just give you one last look at this. I mean, you can see, look how grey the pins are there. It looks pretty oxidised. I might just get a bit of what's it called, deoxit onto a cotton bud and just wipe over the pins gently. But you can see, you know, these 3 here have been repaired. You see that? And I think it was the end one, wasn't it? And if I flip it over, the telltale sign is on this side. If I just try and get you a little bit closer, can you see the bit of solder on the inside there? You know, so that little, in fact, more visible there. That little pin was soldered onto the inside of the stub there. But yeah, I think they're okay. They're nice and straight. So just got to just carefully get this in, and we'll get this dodgy side in first, and then try and align this side. Hopefully no more pins will break off here. Just carefully push it down and hope nothing's broken off there. It looks okay. So let's give that a try. You never know. I mean, the worst case is it doesn't work. We could always just maybe swap it out, you know, but it'd be nice if we could try and salvage that Paula. Come on, fingers crossed. Oh yes. There's nothing like that warm fuzzy feeling you get when you manage to save something like that, because it means I'm a Paula up, you know. I don't need to worry about having to replace that. Yeah, so we need some screws for this, but I'm going to just take this out of here, I think. What's holding it in now? I'm not sure, because there's no screws in it. The side screws are out. The back screw is missing there. I forget which way this comes out now. Does it come out the front? Yeah, it comes out the front, doesn't it? That's the thing. Yeah, it comes this way. So technically I should have removed the wires first, but yeah, we'll clean this up. I'm going to go and get a floppy, and we'll give this a try. I suspect this is going to work. So I will lubricate the various bits with Molykote actually in a minute, but to start with I'm just going to go over and just try and collect any dust. I've got a number of videos covering servicing floppy drives like this. I'll perhaps post a link in the description below to the one with the 4 floppy drives, but I've done more than that. There's been a lot of floppy drive stuff on my channel. Yeah, but in general I'm just going to collect all the dust, then we'll clean the heads. I'll show you that. And I'll later stick some Molykote on the rails and things here and just make sure it's all lubricated properly. So that'll do for a quick clean of the mechanism. I will spend more time later. I don't see any point in investing loads of time in this if it doesn't work at all. So we'll just give the bottom head there a rub over with the IPA. It looks very dirty actually. Yeah, that's not too bad. I might get a bit of the what's his name, plastics on there if this doesn't resolve it. So we'll just clean the up head. Again, you've got to be careful not to bend it. You can't put quite as much pressure on this one, but you do still need to hear that squeaky noise like that. If you're not getting that squeaky noise, you're perhaps not pressing hard enough. Anyway, let's give that a try. I'm going to clean the gunk off here now actually. We'll lubricate that up in a minute. Let's just try and move the head over. Sometimes you can just slide them over there. Yeah, there we go. Anyway, you can see it is covered in black gunk there. Anyway, we'll lubricate that in a minute. Right now I just want to go see what this is doing. So let's give that a try. No, that's not detected the boot sector. Let's try reseating the disc. Nope. I'm just going to get a bit of mollycoat onto here. You just got to pull the bar sideways like that and you can actually get it to rotate. At the same time actually we're getting to the gap there where some of the old grease is, but anyway, get a little bit of grease on there. Let's just get that off there. I'm also just going to go over the heads again a second time, but I'm going to use Plastex first and then IPA. But it might need recapping this. I mean, there's still some dust and stuff in there, but yeah, I think it should be alright. Yeah, so just a little bit of Plastex onto the cotton bud there. It's a polishing compound, you know, it's like the super fine stuff, but for really particularly dirty heads, where stuff's been rubbed on there with friction, yeah, I can see that. That's like I don't know, you can see from the end there's a slightly different colour, which makes me think it has actually got some dirt off there that was stuck on. This one's going to be super hard to get any kind of meaningful pressure on. Yeah, so I'll just clean it off with fresh cotton bud and some IPA. So a bit more successful after a second clean, but listen how noisy it is. It's, yeah, making a right racket. Now it didn't load completely a minute ago. You can see it's come with the title screen again. So we'll just leave that, see if that'll load. I think it needs recapping. I suspect that's part of the problem with it. But anyway, I'll show you if it loads, so I'm just going to cut the camera off. Wow, it actually loaded. Not sure if I've got sound connected at the moment. No, I don't. I've not got the, where's it gone now? The audio cable is not plugged in. Let's see if I can work out where it's gone. It's these two here, isn't it? There we go. So I'll just carefully... Yeah, there we go. Sweet. Oh no, it's bubble bobble again. I always show bubble bobble. So I am going to swap those caps. I think they're all 22s. I think there are 3. Oh, there's another one there. There's 4. Yeah, the ones I've got might be slightly bigger, but yeah, I'm just going to remove those. You know, you can see you can desolder them pretty easily from the underside here. There we go. Swapped out those 3 there and that one there. So I've got the old caps up. Dropped one. Yeah, one there. So I'll test those in a bit, but I'm going to go give this another try now. Just see if it's any more reliable. Hopefully you're not too bothered by the unorthodox testing mechanism here of putting it on an Acorn user guide. Yeah, it's not seeing the disc now, which is interesting. Yeah, that's booted. I think there's a mechanical issue with this, because as you shove the disc in and wobble it around a bit, then it starts to work. It's certainly a lot quieter. An awful lot quieter after swapping those caps out. It was making a horrible, like, grinding noise. So yeah, I think the caps definitely needed doing on that. Just getting that, I just need to work out what that initial issue is, where you've got to get the disc in just the right position and then it's okay. That loaded super quick as well compared to the previous time. Yeah, I think we're getting there. So still not 100% reliable. If you stick the disc in and out a few times, it then starts to work, and all I've done here to correct that, you see this spring here, there's like steps and they go up in height, and I just moved it up from the second one to the third one. And you will see now, if I just take the disc out, take the disc out, put the disc in. Normally I would have to stick that in and out a few times. Yeah, it's booting straight away. Yeah, so that's solved the problem there. The reason that sort of thing needs doing really, maybe because the head's been cleaned, you know, I put a bit of pressure on that top head there. And that's one of the problems you can have. You put too much pressure, you can find the tension's not there. But yeah, it's rare you have to do that. I have had to do that in the past on floppy drives, but I think the last time I did that was about 30 years ago actually. I'm sure that'll load first time now. Prior to doing that, it's like I say, it was pretty intermittent. You'd have to generally stick the disc in and out of the drive a few times before it would eventually start to boot it. You know, the first time you could just hear the heads going did it, as if it couldn't find the boot sector. As soon as that spring was cranked up to the next tension level there, it's fine. And all it's doing really is just pulling that top head down to firmly grip the disc, you know, between the heads. You know, the top one's got the spring to hold the disc, and if you've got a good grip there, you'll get a much better read. And that's all it was. Now, I do have a mouse. I'm just too lazy to go and get it. I'll go and get it in a minute, but have you ever used a joystick like this to try and move the mouse cursor? There's a real art to this, trust me. This is a skill. Let's think about this now. You've got to go diagonal like that. Hang on, there's a way of, there you go, like that. Sideways. Yeah, there's a real skill to this, but you can use a joystick instead of a mouse. It takes you a while, but you get there. Sweet, that's working. So I think the next thing I need to do with this now is clean this board up, because obviously there's a bit of corrosion. You can't quite see it just up there on the PCB. There's some on the underside. The RCA phono jacks here not making a very good connection. If there's nothing wedged under there, the centre point doesn't make a connection. So yeah, I don't know whether that's why someone soldered those wires on, but I need to do something there. I need to remove the extra solder. We've also got burnt out resistor here. It's the other one. I think on the previous board, on part 1 here, it was this resistor. But yeah, same thing there. That needs swapping out as well. So, super pleased that we managed to salvage the Polar. You know, there's no issues with that at all. Now it goes in and out of the socket just like a normal chip. The solder is at the point where, you know, it doesn't interfere with the socket, so it's not going to like widen the pins and things like that. But yeah, we'll just clean off this corrosion here. I mean, it looks like largely cosmetic. I don't think there's any damaged connections around there, or this probably wouldn't be working. I'll clean with IPA and cotton bud now and just inspect that closely. Yeah, I don't think I want to leave this as is, because can you see here, you know, the point where this trace goes to the via there, you know, there's some corrosion, that's going to need scratching off and tinning up. This is obviously corroded, but it's just a piece of ground plane here that just extends up. But again, I'll scratch that back off, and there's just 1 or 2 little bits on the way here. You can see, you know, that are blackish. Those will need scratching off. Same down here. There's just a bit of localised corrosion got around this area here, but this, if it's not treated, you know, if it's not scratched off and tinned with solder and flux, ultimately you'll get breaks. Because if you look at some of these here, look, you see they're fine. You know, the traces are okay, the wires are okay. There's no signs of those little black marks that we're seeing here over these. They will break eventually. So there we go, most of the surface corrosion scratched off there. You can see we're back to bare copper just on the little bits that need it. There's still a bit up here, but I'm not too worried about that. It's just like the ground plane. So I got some flux over there, drag some to solder braid, much as you've seen in the previous parts. So with these here, they just need straightening slightly, because you can see they've been bent as someone's put a lot of pressure on when they've been heating with the iron there. But not only that, they need pressing down slightly at that point there on both of them, just a little bit, so that as you push the thing in, it makes a contact with the centre point. Yeah, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see in there, but as you push them down, yeah, you can't really see it. It just makes a better fit. But I'm going to remove that extra solder there now while I'm at it as well, you know, off the corners and things here. It just looks a mess. When you've got crazy amounts of solder on the edges of these, don't be afraid of trying to cut this off, because it's just solder containing, it's just lead and tin mixed. So, yeah, I don't know if you can see, you know, I've been slicing pieces of it off the edge there. Managed to get most of that off, because trying to get the desolder station on there at the right angle to remove that excess solder from those side pieces was proven near impossible. But using a sharp knife here, I have been able to just slice it off. So I found a couple more of those rust marks. I've cleaned that one up there. Can you see this one? I mean, it looked better on macro, I think, but yeah, it's corroded here and just corroded where the via joins. So same thing, gonna tin those up. And then we need to clean up around the expansion slot. But can you see green, 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 green. It's the same on the underside. You know, some of the corrosion from here has leaked, you know, but anyway, I'm going to have to clean this up. So again, vinegar with a brush and IPA with a brush, and yeah, I'll just see how we get on. So these little vias here, just circled around them with the tool here, and use the fiberglass pen, and then just went over them with some vinegar. So all the corrosion's removed off sort of this area here. I removed some of the bits of corrosion off here, so we've got some little bits of bare copper exposed there. I can cover that with some nail polish afterwards. The next thing we need to do is deal with this socket here. So I think before I do anything, I'm just going to go over that with some vinegar, but then I'll perhaps use the fiberglass pen lightly, just up and down the inside of that socket. This side, I'll just use the toothbrush with IPA to clean that side of the expansion connector. So just a little bit of vinegar, but I'll get some vinegar on there and actually use the toothbrush, I think. But I mean, can you see how green that is? It's working, it's getting it off. It's just going to take some time, and you do need a toothbrush to get right in there. This is only just going to be dealing with the pads on the outside here. So I need to do more cleaning up underneath here. You know, you can see the alkaline from the battery has started to affect the edge of the board. Look, that's green there. And look at this, instead of being gold plated, can you see there's like a green surface tinge to it? I mean, it's superficial, but still, it all needs cleaning off. Let's just have a go at the edge connector here. Let's send the ESD out here. Yeah, one of the nice things with gold plates like this, it doesn't really corrode. I think it's yeah, it doesn't corrode at all. Well, not with normal, you know, from alkaline like that. It's quite hardy. So yeah, most of that's come off. Just might just use the eraser on that, but I'll need to do both sides. You can still see some contaminants, you know, traces of contaminants here. You can see that, a few little bits. Anyway, I'll continue cleaning around this, but it's just a case of using cotton buds, IPA, fiberglass pen, scratching tool, you know, scratching any corrosion off where you see it. You know, don't scratch anything off here if you can help it, using a razor or something soft. So it's hard to tell through the viewfinder, but whether you can tell, but you know, the top of the Paula there, the pins are just like really dark grey. You know, that's why it started to, you know, some of the pins came off it. They didn't come off it when I removed it because the pins are not there. I think someone's, I don't know, pulled it out of a different board and removed the pins and then stuffed it in here. I suspect that's what's happened. So yeah, I think what I'll do is just go over that carefully with the fiberglass pen here. I mean, bear in mind, you know, you do something like this across the pins of a chip, you risk some ESD damage just by doing this, because there's, you know, you've got friction there, fiberglass bristles, you know, you could cause some sort of fault, but you know, we've got no choice really. We need to clean this up. So I'll go over this lightly like this, and then I'll use a cotton bud with a bit of WD-40 and just gently wipe over those edges there. You know, it's just the tops that are exposed that have gone kind of a bit rusty, where the moisture's got in at that part of the board. The other side of the chip's okay. But WD-40 is a solvent, so, and it's not conductive, you know, all you're doing is wiping over the pin edge there, that's all. You're not getting like tons and tons and tons of it all over the place. But because it's a solvent, it will stop moisture. You know, if it is in a damp location, any moisture starting to corrode that. The other pins on the other chips look okay. If at first you don't get one of these drives working, don't give up. You know, do the things I did. You know, clean the heads. Maybe consider demagnetizing the heads. That can sometimes help. Replace the 3 or 4 caps that are on there. Sometimes you'll get one on the underside here. Sometimes you'll have to remove the PCB to get access to the caps, and sometimes even this PCB will have caps on the inside, depending on which drive it is. The other thing I did on this as well is I didn't show it. Unscrew the track 0 sensor there, just pull it off, get some compressed air into it. It's like a little 2 plastic halves. One's got a bit that sends the beam. I think it's like this side or something. The other side's got the photosensitive diode, or it'll be a diode, so I've got 2 connections there. Yeah, so you can just blow some compressed air in there, you know, reseat that. Don't be tempted to try and ever change the head alignment. That tends to never ever really need doing. It's very rare for that to need doing. You know, get the mollycott onto the rail there. I also got some mollycott into the mechanism here, you know, any bits that move against each other, plastic on metal or plastic on plastic, even metal on metal, get a bit of mollycott there. The other thing is obviously you've got your detect switch and the right protect switch here. You can get some switch contact cleaner into those, but this drive is fine. I'm going to reassemble it now, and just need to find some screws, because obviously it came with no screws. I need a small screw for the top there and want 2 for the sides. Yeah, so out of some of my spare screws, I've got a number of spare screw drawers here, categorised into different types. I've found a couple of screws that are identical to each other, little black ones that look like the right thickness, and you can see that's going in nicely there. You know, I haven't had to force that at all. So it's always worth, when you scrap something, you know, no matter what it is, you know, some cheap Chinese bit of kit or something you've got that you're throwing away that was super cheap but's failed, remove all the screws from it, because, you know, straight away you can see I managed to repair that now. I just need 1 screw there. That's going to be kind of like a regular linear thread rather than a cross, like a tapping type one, you know. I'm not describing that very well, but yeah, anybody who knows about screws will be able to post in the comments. I just need to find a super small screw for that one now. And again, I think I found a screw here. You can see it's super short. They usually are on this one. So if I just get that in, it feels like it's not going to go in, but it then tightens up. That's super tight now. So yeah, that's not bad. I now need to find 2 screws for that to hold it into the case. We'll clean the corrosion off the top of the drive can there as well. Just a little bit of rust in a few locations. Just use the wire brush. Then I'll go over it with a fiberglass pen, and then just wipe over it with a bit of WD-40 on a rag. So yeah, wipe over that. You can feel when you've removed the rust. I've described this before, but you know, it feels super smooth, the surface. You don't get stuck on the points where the rust was. So there's been so much to do on this that I've cut various bits out. You know, I've not shown you all of the cleanup work here. I've spent a considerable amount of time going over, you know, all of the wires here to remove the corrosion. This gold-plated connector here, you know, for the expansion. I keep calling it the expansion. This is really an expansion port, because you've got more of the bus connections and things, more bus connections here, control signals and things that you do here. This is just for RAM, but the RAM expansion slot here, you know, there was tons and tons of green stuff on the inside of the pins, and it's on the inner set as well. So I had to use this little scratch tool to scratch the backs of the pins, as well as using vinegar and IPA. Rinse, repeat, scratch the backs of the pins. Probably 3 or 4 times I had to do that in order to deal with that. Luckily, none of the corrosion seems to, you know, the corrosion doesn't seem to have eaten through the traces there, and it was the same here, you know, on this side. We've got a bent pin there. I'll just straighten that up. I can see that now. It's pointing down a little bit that way. But you know, cleaning up here with, again, vinegar and IPA toothbrush, but then also you had to use the fiberglass pen on the top there a few times to get the corrosion off the tops of the pins. You can see a couple of traces here, like these thick ones here. It's just going to be for ground and VCC. They're super thick, but you know, there's some surface corrosion. Strictly speaking, I should, you know, scratch all that off and tin it up, but you know, that'll be alright, I think. I've dealt with the majority of the corrosion on this. I went over this with, again, cotton bud and IPA, and removed that there were a lot of smeary, horrible, rusty, dirty marks in various places, all removed off that side. So that side's looking pretty good, actually. Going to do this resistor next. These ports here, as I showed, you know, just need bending down a little bit. So as soon as you put the connector in, it mates with the underneath of this part here. So I don't like the design of these, but they're okay. You know, I plugged the connectors in and they're fine. They make a really good snug fit now, so that's that. Yeah, you can just about see from this side of Paula here, you know, the pins that were affected, you know, because it looks like there's a bit of solder showing there, and again here, you know, where I tried to solder on the front of that to start with. But yeah, but it's looking okay, I think. You know, we tinned up all the area around here, these little wires and things, and the two there, so that's all looking good as well. The final things to do to this, maybe recap it. I'd certainly swap out the main caps here. These smaller ones, they're going to be alright, but these ones I would certainly swap out. I think there's a 470, is there somewhere? Maybe swap out the 470 if I can find it. There might not be one on this particular board revision. Yeah, connectors already cleaned up there, so that's okay. And the final thing you might want to consider is resoldering any dry joints, you know, so joystick ports, power socket, but you know, they're all good. They're all super good on this. There's no issues at all, so I don't need to refloat any of those. So I've got some resistors here that look well, almost the same size. They might be a bit smaller. It's proven very difficult to get exactly the right size. I think, were these 1 watt or 2 watt? I don't know, these are too big, you know, they're much bigger. They'll fit, but anyway, we'll get that resistor off there. So I'm just going to use the desolder station for this. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there you go, you can see it's come straight out, no problems at all. Yeah, I'm not sure the wattage is exactly the same there. They look the same, it's just ever so slightly smaller, this one. It might be 1 watt, I don't know, instead of half a watt, but anyway, it'll be fine. It will be fine. So we'll bend the legs approximate to how they are there. Yeah, it's like that, in it, roughly. And we'll just get the resistor through. I'll try and get the tolerance band, the gold band, the same way around as the one that's on there, just to make it kind of look consistent. Although it does look slightly smaller to me. I suspect it's supposed to be 1 watt, not half a watt. And we can just solder that in place. Leave it time to flow through to the other side. Just inspect it to make sure it's okay. Yeah, it is. So there we go, all done. It's not quite the right size, is it? It should be 1 watt, I think. Nevertheless, it will be okay. So I straightened that pin that needed straightening there, but as I was inspecting with the magnifier to adjust it, I realised that the tips of these were all green, every single one. So I had to go gently up and down like that, and then at an angle, just on the very edge. Can you see that just on the top? You don't want to go down the length of it, obviously, because you'll remove all of the gold plating. But yeah, I had to do a bit of this all the way along like that on both rows, from the underside at an angle and from the top side at an angle. I can't really do it when it's that way up like that, just at an angle, just on the very surface of the pins. So, you know, it will have removed the gold plating off the very tips there, but there was no choice because they were green. And it wasn't coming off with just cleaning. 1 or 2 pins there look like they're extended out a little bit. It's like they're being pushed forward. That one there. But anyway, that's as good as it's going to get. So I tested the 4 caps from the drive here. The 22s, they come out approximately correct, 23-ish with about 2 ohms on the ESR, which I think is probably about right. The 1 microfarad I suspect is the most problematic one. That comes out at nearly 6 ohms actually. It should be around 4.5, I think. If I just try and put that in there and test it again. I did it a minute ago, it came out 5.9. Well, it's come out 5 ohms, that's not too far off where it should be. Yeah, I'm not sure I believe this meter anyway, actually. So just test the 1 microfarad. Yeah, 5.1 ohms, should be about 4.5, but I mean, a minute ago it measured 6. I suspect they have just gone slightly high ESR. I think that's all it is. You only need a subtle amount. The problem is with small resistors like this, when they're a high voltage, like 50 volts, you get quite a high ESR to start with, like 4.5 ohms, so it's kind of like a resistor right from the offset. So it doesn't take much deviation there to become a problem. So, finishing touches to the drive here, you can see I've had a couple of these buttons here 3D printed. It was a case of going away and finding a model. I'll perhaps stick a comment up there, the creator, author of that model. It's an STL file. You get zip, and you unzip the zip, and there'll be, I don't know, a readme in there, and a .stl file. You can upload the .stl file to a company that does 3D printing, e.g. Shapeways. I didn't go with Shapeways because of the postage. I think they're based in the US, perhaps. They might not be. Might be a global company, or they might be European, I'm not sure. But as a side point here, you can see I've just been testing these. This one here was a little bit bent to the side. I just pushed it down to see how it went in and out, and actually it's stuck in. So I need to get some contact cleaner into those and just make sure those are working okay. You can test the connections on them in the back here. There's going to be maybe a common in the middle, and then yeah, the contact for each switch. I think it looks that way because you've got 3 contacts on it. Right now though, I'm not sure how to get it to come back out actually. Anyway, in order to mount this here, it goes, you've got to get it through there, and you can see at the moment it won't go through, so I'm going to have to use the file to file either side of that little bit there, just so that it's thin enough to slide inside, and then it clips on the inside. If you imagine it's in that little channel, that little notch obviously will come up here. So again, might need to do some work on that little round bit there, and then this piece here just fits into there, and that does fit okay, as you can see. You know, it fits into that little slot, and it's kind of held on by the front, because once you imagine, you know, it's going to be a bit loose on one side, you could pull it back out, but once the front, you know, the lid is on there, it holds it so it can't fall out. Yeah, it's a shame you couldn't get that in cream plastic, but you could always, you know, you could always get some cream paint and paint that. I might even do that later. So yeah, I need to deal with this and file this down. So all I did here to finish this off was use the craft knife and just do a bit of this very gently on both sides there, because that was the bit that wouldn't go through. The other thing I did is use the sandpaper here, fold an edge, because the gap between that little piece there and the bit below wasn't quite smooth enough. And as you will see, hopefully it won't blur, it should now slide through there like that. And you've got to be careful, because you can break this if you're not careful. You need to get it in just the right position so that the notch there comes up into the hole at the same time as this piece here comes into this gap. So yeah, it's a little bit, can be a little bit fiddly. Almost there, I think. There we go. And make sure the back bit goes in there. That's it. There we go. Fantastic replacement button. So yeah, I mean, it's not ideal that it's white, but you know what, it's not a big deal. So with regards to the stuck switch, we'll just use these fine nose pliers here, try and just, there we go, pull it out. Yeah, we just need a bit of contact cleaner in there to make sure that doesn't stick in. But can you see it's slightly bent to that side? I think that's the problem. It's had a bit of a knock. If we're super careful, we might just be able to just bend it slightly that way. Yeah, that might do it. So you can see it's, you know, it's reformed. Oh, it's still gone back a little bit there. Let's just see if it'll. Yeah, it's like it's working, but it's kind of bent a bit to one side, isn't it? Really don't like bending plastic like that. Anyway, we'll get some contact cleaner in there. So I'm just masking off around that, because when I spray this, yeah, all of my thumb, I don't want it to go absolutely everywhere. I can clean off the excess with a cotton budge. You know, I've got some on the inside there. So I've had to split this into 2 parts because there is still some faults with this Amiga. You wouldn't believe it, but this actually has a RAM fault. Initially I suspected it was a sound fault, and actually it's very interesting how that fault manifests itself, as you'll see in the next video. The other problem is the keyboard. Obviously, you know, I need that key, the F2 key, but also the caps lock key is not working properly. If you just twist the keyboard slightly, the caps lock light goes off and on. Some of the keys become a little bit unreliable. So yeah, there's a number of things a bit more interesting perhaps to cover in the next part. Anyway, I do hope you found the video interesting. Please like, share and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next video.